everyone. I'm doing a little impromptu live with Kajal today to celebrate her amazing achievement of being showcased in Diabetes UK's campaign. This is Diabetes. So I'll give her an introduction while we wait for her to join us. But she's essentially going to come on here and share her story. And the reason that I think her sharing her story is so important and something that I'm able to do with my clients is that if someone is newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, right, this is something that affects their life from very young. And so they struggle. They struggle in the sense that now they need to be injecting themselves with insulin during break times. They need to make sure that they eat. They're also restricted at birthday parties. So there's a huge social aspect, that impacts these children and now later into adults. And it's not an easy journey. And so, Kajal's been instrumental in the sense that when I have a client who's struggling, particularly with the social aspects, because she has lived it and is still living it, she's able to give insight that even as a health professional, no matter how much I study, I will not be able to give. And, when you're treating diabetes, it's not only about, seeing the doctor. It's a very multidisciplinary approach, and it doesn't only need to be health professionals. It can also encompass people like Kajal who are coming in with their lived experience in terms of their diabetes. I've learned stuff from her along the way because it's a very special kind of area. So, when we're looking at trying to figure out how much insulin to give ourselves, because we want to have a slice of cake, that's something that children might look at and frown upon and go, oh, okay, what are you doing? It's not easy to have to lift up your shirt and, have to prick yourself with an insulin pen. So I think, that experience, whether it's a psychological thing or a physical thing, acceptance of being able to, really see other people who are not doing that and you now having to do that, it's really hard. So I'm sure Kajal's going to be able to give us some more information when she joins us in a minute. So she's sending me a message. Sorry. We're trying to figure out which account to use. So hello everyone who's here. Hello, I can see a type 1 diabetic or two that I know that have joined us. Do you guys have any questions while we're waiting? Hi, Risha. Here is Kajal herself, the lady of the day.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Can you see me clearly?
Yes, I can.
And can
see.
you hear me clearly?
Yes, I'm sure it's going to be the internet on this end that fails us, if anything.
But then again, with everything going on in the last few days with Facebook and Instagram, it's just anyway. It's Mark Zuckerberg.
That's true. How are you?
I'm good. Today's been a really good day. The sun is shining, which it never does in the UK, so I'm very happy.
Yeah.
And I had a photo shoot in the morning, so I have a day off work. And yeah, it's been a really good day. And we've had the campaign come out today on Diabetes UK. And yeah, it's a very exciting day today.
Yeah. That it's not many people that can say, there's a Zambian representing in a Diabetes UK campaign, which is huge. And why not celebrate that? So I did a very long introduction.
Oh,
um,
nice.
I've told everyone and tapped into a little bit around kind of, why I value kind of working with you, especially in terms of when my clients come through and, we're doing all of this medical stuff and telling them what to do all the time. And then,
Yeah.
you being in and being able to add that personal and that lived touch is so valuable. I mean, sometimes it's the parents a lot of the time when the younger children who benefit from it the most, right? Um,
100%.
that multidisciplinary care where, there's the dietitian, there's the doctor, and then, having this little element of you coming along who's got this lived experience. Even I
Yeah.
learn things from you as well.
It's a human touch.
Yes, exactly. That's it. A
Mhm.
human touch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand it to you because I think today is about you. It's about sharing your it to everyone in terms of what your experience has been. I mean, go into as much detail or as little detail as you like. What is it like living with type 1 diabetes?
It is difficult. I will say that quite proudly. I don't want to pretend like it's not. It
Yeah,
sometimes feels like a secondary job. It sometimes
yeah,
feels like having a child. Uh,
yeah,
so it's like you have to perform like an organ. That's basically what it is. And
yes,
it's tough because a non-diabetic or a person without diabetes doesn't think of certain things. They just get on with their day. They wake up. They're like, okay, I've got a bit of a headache, and your body does whatever. Whereas for me, if I woke up with a headache, it's indicating, okay, maybe my sugars were high. What did I eat last night? What did I not do? What am I going to do for tomorrow night to make sure it doesn't happen again? And it's a lot of thinking. And I always say, if I wasn't diabetic, I wouldn't be as neurotic as I am. But not in a bad way. It's just at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. So
yeah,
if I didn't have the diabetes, I wouldn't be as healthy as I am, because the
yeah,
only part of my body that's not fully functioning is that part of the pancreas. It's not like, a lot of the misconceptions of diabetes, like, oh, do you know what? It's heart disease, and it's there's parts of your body they're not working. I've heard stories of, oh my God, people can't have children. I'm like, where did you hear this from? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's
yeah,
that happens with the wear and tear of the body. But
yeah,
thing is, my body is absolutely fine. It's just one part of the pancreas that's just not doing the job. And all I have to do is try and keep the homeostasis of the body as clean and clear as possible. So the only variable is the sugar. So I
yeah,
notice when I get stressed, the sugars go a bit crazy. And I know I have eaten correctly. I have counted my carbs. Everything is a fair test. Yes, my life is a science experiment every day. But then I know, okay, there must be something going on in my body. Is it the hormones? Am I in a stressful environment? The work that I'm doing right now is, I wouldn't say the most happiest environments. And I've noticed my sugars have been going a bit crazy. So I, for one, will always value my health first and foremost. And I tell that to anyone, because if you're not happy and I think here we go. Are we good? It cut out for a second.
yeah,
So I don't know what stories I can share with you. I mean, this whole campaign has been quite emotional for me, and especially doing it while we're in a pandemic. I've had to
yes,
really focus on myself quite a bit without distractions. I guess a good kind of cocooning environment, but I've had to kind of face a lot of old demons growing up, etc. So I shared my story with Diabetes UK. They were just asking people for a lot of stories, and they picked mine. They said, we really liked how you've taken something which most people would see as a death sentence, and you've flipped it on its head and made it so positive. Like, not just positive, like so positive, because I'm doing so much with my life. And
yeah,
I guess that comes from a place of never wanting to be counted out. So one big story that I had when I was young, and I didn't realize how much it affected me, was when I was first diagnosed and I got into ISL, International School of Lusaka. Some girls were having like a birthday party, like the whole class was going, and I was just me. I was like, "Can I come to your party?" And like, I went, but my mom had packed me sandwiches. And I remember not having everyone come and hug me and say, oh, come in. They just looked at me funny, like, why is she having sandwiches? Why is her mom talking to the girl's mom? And it affected me because I'm like, there's something different about me. And as a child, no child should feel that way. No child should feel unwelcome in any way. And I think that really affected me growing up because I'm like, I don't ever want to be counted out. And so I did the most with my life. Like I modeled, I designed, I ran a part of a factory. You know, I've come here and done this campaign. I've joined an agency here. Like I'm always doing something because I never want to be counted out. But in the same process, I hope I can provide a role model for young girls, particularly, even just in general, like even being an Indian girl in, you know, traditional country, like, especially in this world today, like you have choices, like go for it. Don't let a challenge, don't let life, don't let community or any situation count you out anyway. And I had a life-threatening disease condition hold me back. And I said, no, screw that. I'm going to do this. And I'm not saying I haven't lived life. Like I've lived life. Like I've gone out, I've, you know, gone out dancing. I've gone out drinking. I've traveled. I've done everything a normal person, when I say normal, meaning a non-diabetic person has done. But I guess the way it started off was from a place of insecurity and a fear. And I just didn't want another generation of people to feel that that feeling. I never want anyone to feel that feeling. I didn't ask for this.
And I suppose that, of course. And I suppose that's one of the biggest things is like hardship provides a lot of times is a vessel for people, and how you're going to use that vessel can be completely different. And you're a wonderful example of how you've taken this and use it as something that can be beneficial to everyone. You know, you're saying, hey, okay, I struggled, but you know what? No one else needs to, and I'm here to help you, you know? So I think kind of like, you know, life is not going to always be peachy and everyone's going to have their own little, and of course, because type 1 diabetes is not something you've chosen, right? It's something that your body has. This is quite different to type 2 diabetes, which is a lifestyle condition.
Too many sweets, just to anyone listening.
Develop, right? How old were you, Kajal, when you were diagnosed with your diabetes?
I was five. My sister was getting married at the time. They usually say with type 1, it's usually either something traumatic that's happened to you, or it's like it gets into your body like a virus. But I wasn't sick at the time. I don't know. There's no one in my family who's female who has type 1 diabetes, and no one who's got it under the age of 10. Like there's only one cousin of mine, and he got it at the age of 30. So I flipped it and I said, you know what? When God was picking people, he was like, you, and you. So
of course. Blessing, in a sense, sometimes as well, right? So that basically your body is not producing the hormone insulin, which is responsible for your blood sugar levels, right? And so therefore you have to inject yourself with insulin to do that job. And you've got a pretty cool sensor, which has really changed the way you do things. So tell us a bit about that, because here in Zambia, it's not something that's readily accessible. And so most type 1 diabetics are still figuring out how to trick themselves, which is not something necessarily easy to figure out, especially, you know, when you're very young in school. So tell us a bit more about that experience around kind of like this really cool sensor you've got, but also that whole experience of like having to inject insulin in different places. Tell us a bit more about that, because that's something I know a lot of my clients struggle with.
So when I was first taking insulin, my mom would inject me. So she would inject me, and we had huge needles at the time. Obviously, time's gone over time. The needles have become smaller. She would, as I started getting older, I'm like, I can't have my mom keep injecting me because I need to I want to do things. So I started doing it myself, where she would like put the needle in and then I would press it. So it was like step by step. And I think a lot of the young diabetics who you've treated and who I've helped are going through those processes. So just letting everyone know that I've done it too. And it's scary because you don't want to, you know, something to get, it won't, but you think that it might. So same thing with this, like so I've been checking my bloods my whole life. And the problem with that is you don't know what's happening in between. So for my whole life, everyone told me, eat oats. Oatmeal is great for you. Going to the gym and everything's great. I remember one time I checked my bloods, it was 6.4. I went to the gym 2 hours and I was feeling lethargic. I'm like, this trainer hasn't really pushed me, but I'm feeling really sick. And then when I came home, I checked my bloods. As luckily I checked 2 hours later. My sugars were 18. And I was like, what is going on? And I was about to take my injection. I'm like, no, hold on. Insulin works for 4 hours. I'm going to wait this out, even though I was feeling sick and I was lethargic. Check my blood 2 hours later, my sugar 6.4. So no one tells you the effect of food in between. The quality of, you won't know. Whereas this gives you everything in the background up to 6 hours behind. What happens at night? Everyone's like, oh, you know, you have dawn effect. Your sugars go low before they go high in the morning. Thing is, who's going to really wake up? I mean, we all used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to check our bloods. Why are we doing the old school ways when we live in a world that has so much technology? So this was a game changer for me. Just FYI, there's no needle inside. It's just a small catheter. I've actually done some work for Freestyle Libre themselves. And basically to insert this, there's a little needle that it's just to pierce the skin, but it pulls out. So it leaves the catheter in. So blood's constantly going through the catheter in and out. So you have a live value. Now the thing is, it's not actually a live value. It's 5 to 10 minutes delayed. So a lot of times it'll beep when my sugars are going low. And I'm like, I know I'm low because I'm very sensitive with my body. Some people don't feel. Again, it varies from person to person how sensitive they are. But I can feel my low before it even happens. But this will keep beeping about 5 minutes later because it's in the interstitial tissue. I don't want to use too many big words here. But it's not in the blood as such. It's in the layer above the blood. It doesn't hurt. I was on a Dexcom before. Again, this is not about companies versus companies. It just didn't work for me. It was too big. I got skinny arms. It would fall off. The adhesive didn't work for me. But some people really like it. And if they're on the Dexcom, there's a new system which I want to explore. But again, I'm going to take my time with it because this works for me. There's a closed loop system with the Dexcom. So you have like this strange app that they've created on the phone, which connects to your Dexcom. And then when the sugars go high, it'll beep and it'll send the insulin. So it's a closed loop system. Right now it's open. So you'll see, okay, my sugars are this. You need to go in and adjust your insulin yourself by a pen or by a pump. But this new system is closed loop. So right now I'm happy with my open loop system because I'm so used to using pens. It's almost like going between a manual and automatic. Sometimes when you're on automatic, you can't, there's less control. I like using my pens. Again, it's just because I'm used to it. I inject on my thighs and I inject on my stomach. When I'm out and about, I'll do it in my stomach because it's just easier. But they say that if you take your insulin in your stomach, it goes into your blood system quicker. I don't know because as far as I can see, the skin is the same everywhere. But apparently it works better. When I'm training at the gym, I won't inject in my legs because then the blood's moving faster. I'll probably have a low sugar quicker. So it's things like that, which again, I think what we've worked with when talking to patients and just, I talk to diabetics person to person. These are things which a doctor won't say to you, a gym trainer won't say to you. You can say it because I've been explaining and talking about little tidbits as we've been going along. But as a non-diabetic, you're not going to know these things. And I think that's one thing I noticed growing up. I grew up with this condition very much lonely. I had no one to look up to. I just knew the books that came from South Africa. Mom told me to read this, eat your high fiber, low fat, all of that good stuffs. And I listened to that. Like I was very, not strict, but just obedient about it. Mom told me something, dad paid for it, and that was my life. There was no one coming and telling me, Oh, I see Lily asking questions here.
Yeah.
I will talk about that in a second, Lily. So my life was very simple, but it was very, how do I say? Looking back now, I realize there's a lot I missed out in my childhood, which is probably why I'm such a big child right now. I'm so connected to my inner child because I didn't have anyone to play with apart from my family. I had the few friends, but even then it was always like, oh, have you checked your bloods? Have you done this? You weren't fully there as such. And I didn't know any better growing up. I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, that was my life. And so now when I see younger diabetics, girls, boys, I'll tell them these feelings because a doctor's not going to tell them. A doctor's going to give them the worst case scenario. You know, if your sugars are not under control, you're going to have a leg amputated. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, tell them that. But don't like scare them. You're not telling them that it's okay to have a high sugar once in a while because you wanted to eat an extra biscuit. You know,
Yes.
you're not eating extra biscuits every day, you know, and you just didn't know how to count your carb for it because, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just letting someone know it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
It's
So
more than, it's the emotional part.
Yeah, what I really, really love about your approach is it's so similar to how I speak to my clients. You know, whether it's a
Yeah.
weight loss client or diabetic, I say that same thing, that single event or that single piece of cake. So what, right?
Yeah.
It's not in the picture of things something that you're doing continuously, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be something you should be scared of. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the time what the medical system leaves people with is fear.
Mm.
Um, and it's really, really difficult. So, you know, when I see someone, I'm like, are you seeing a psychologist? Have you spoken to Kajal? And if you haven't, here's the two numbers and off you. Those are some of the most important elements to me, because at the end of the day, eating is a behavior as well. There's a lot of psychology, and we don't realize how much food is ingrained in every single thing that we do, from attending birthdays to
Yeah.
having at your friend's house. I mean, all of these things start getting impacted when you have a condition that is influenced by the food that you eat. So, you know, that anxiety that can develop, and all of those different things that manifest from that diagnosis is very, very significant. And I love what you do because you're telling your story, but you also are highlighting how people need to listen to their body, right? So that is your experience is going to be really, really helpful, and that you'll be able to equip and help that person to figure out their version of perfect or their perfect management plan, right? So just like how you learned that oatmeal was something that just didn't work out for you, it could very well be that someone else has a different food that really doesn't work out for them, and empowering them with all those tools that they need to go forward to figure out, okay, what is the best management plan? Always going to be a one size fit all, just like how you explained, which is your preference of how you monitor sugars, right?
I mean, like, the
So
endocrinologist will come back in the day when we check our bloods with finger pricks. You know, you write it in your little book, you go to the endo, it's like, oh, you had a high sugar here. I don't know what I did at 11 o'clock 3 months ago. I mean, who's going to remember? You know, so the greatest part about this is that it's giving us patterns, and you want to see a pattern. Like, if your sugars are, like, for me, I have a lot of insulin resistance in the mornings. So I can eat a potato. I'm not saying I would eat a potato for breakfast, but I can have a potato in the morning and need 8 to 9 units of insulin. That same potato I can probably have for 4 units in the evening, because what my body is just used to has less insulin resistance. So the thing is, patterns are what you're really looking for, because each person's body is different. But you won't know that until you have something that's giving you continuous information. And when you're really trusting and feeling out your body, you know, if you go see a doctor, this is what I never understood. And I didn't feel I had any authority to say anything, but I was like, why are you telling me the same thing you're telling the person who was here before me? Because our bodies are different, our lifestyles are different, there's no cookie cutter way of doing this. So even like, that's why when it comes to the young diabetics that we're helping, I give them the guidelines, I give them the situations I'm in, but I never tell them, like, you should do this, because they have to find out what works for them. But they will only find out what works for them if they know it's okay to be okay with themselves. Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
no one
so
tells
they're
them it's
listening into, yeah, and being mindful and using the tools along the way to figure out what works best for them. Um, and we're not bashing out medical professionals don't have a
no, of
space in
course not.
this. They do.
They do.
And we do respect them,
But
right?
we don't give
It's
enough energy towards
only,
trusting ourselves.
yeah, they're not the only tool. And we found, last year, was it last year or the year before now? Oh my God, time is flying. We did a community
It was early
diabetes
last year.
event.
It was January 2019, and then it continued on to another one that was in September, October, and we're doing one
Yes.
now in the next month, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. So it's what we have really tried to showcase is you need more than just one, health professional. Sometimes you need many, right? And
Of course.
for one person, maybe one particular profession is going to be much more valuable to them than the other. But you need to know where you can go, how you can access these people, and what different services they
100%.
provide. And
Yeah.
our goal is to showcase all of these different
Yeah.
disciplines and how
Yeah.
they can help you. I mean, even me attending that day, I learned a lot from a lot of the professionals that came along
Yes.
that I didn't before. So
Yeah.
we always have to be open as health professionals to remind ourselves that we don't know everything. Yes, we went to got a degree, but constantly learning, and we learn through our clients, and having that the continuous development is so important. So yeah, we want to do something virtually, hopefully next
Yes.
month for diabetes,
Yes,
right?
because
So
I
we're going
think last year's event was so good because again, I didn't realize how much information I have in my head. 30 years of diabetes, I say it's the University of Diabetes, and
yeah
especially now in a life of so I'm just looking at people's questions. Um, Especially in a life now where people are eating fast foods because it's a faster lifestyle, convenience, all of that, and it's causing type 2 diabetes because it's wear and tear of the body, but it's happening in young people. So the thing is now the age gaps of juvenile diabetes and the older diabetes version are kind of merging. And so the whole idea of just diabetes in general, I thought we need to address. So it's in a weird way, I also think it's cosmic timing that now that I'm at that stage where I've had enough information and enough experience of this, I'm not saying I don't need a degree in this, like if I had to help people with it, but it's something which you can't teach. What I have is something you can't teach, but everything I've learned, why should I keep it to myself when I can help lives? And if I can help inspire people to live a full life and not feel, because a lot of anything you do in life, you have to want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, you don't know how to do it. And especially me, I didn't have the role model. I want to give back what I didn't have. And so when I was like, you know what, I see this doctor, I see this person, I see this person, why can't I just put them all in one room and just have everyone be available to it? And it was such a, it was what do you call it? It was fully booked. Like no one was there. It was, the whole thing was full. Like we had people even outside. And I was like, this is so good. And then obviously the pandemic hit and I've been stuck here in the UK, waiting for Zambia to get off the red list. So in between, you guys have done so much work while I've been away, and it just felt so good to have empowered a bunch of people to do these things. So there was one that happened at East Park last year, which was great. But I think this one, I think when we realize the scope of what we're doing, it's actually better to be virtual. Number one, because of COVID, but number two, we can reach a lot more people. And I think Africa is a huge hub of diabetes right now because healthcare is not getting out to us as it is in the West. And that's why I'm hoping the work that I'm doing over here can help bring things back over there. I'm hoping in the next year or two, I've got a few projects up my sleeve. But when they come into fruition, I will talk more about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll do an announcement soon once Kajal and I have had a big, brainstorm session together on how we're going to do this. There's been some love from everyone who's joined.
I know. I'm just trying to read everyone's messages. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Anya. Mwah.
Yeah. I feel like you have potentially might have addressed this already, but Lily's question was, can you talk about feeling shy or embarrassed in your early days injecting in front of people? And how did you get over it and normalize it?
I didn't really feel out of place when I injected. I kind of thought, well, it's something I have to do. And if
Yeah.
you want to come watch, come watch. I remember like when my cousins would come home, like, you know, we'd go and sit each other's houses back in the day, and it would be time to take my injection. I remember vividly one time my mom said to my cousins, give Kajal her injection. I'm going to go and give Kajal an injection. Do you want to come see? I think I was more embarrassed of like pulling my pants down than actually mom injecting me, because I was like,
Hmm.
I don't want to see me. But I think, no, we were like 7, 8. I don't think they really fully understood what was going on. So I think more than
Yeah.
anything, I wasn't, and I've never really been embarrassed of taking the jab in front of people. In fact, I'd make it a joke. I'm like, don't do drugs, people. You know, I just make it as a
Yeah.
joke. But I think I get more embarrassed with the behaviors. So when I was younger, sitting at break times by myself, uh,
Yeah.
not sharing, not being able to share break times with friends. It's those situations that affected me more, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I knew what I had to do. I followed the fundamentals. I have to take my jab. I have to eat this. Like, there was no emotions to it. You just do it.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it started being integrated with everyday life, it was more
Yeah.
like, oh, why is she not doing this? Why is she not? That's where I was more, not embarrassed. It's not even embarrassment. It was feeling out of place. I think a lot of it, and it still affects me till today. Every so often, I'll just get triggered. It's just a feeling of being out of place and
Yeah.
not being normal. But I am normal, but it's just in
I
my
guess
head.
the biggest things with this campaign is to also make people aware, and to make it something that, you know, people are aware of, and it's making it somewhat normal in a sense to
Oh,
see this, right? And not only
exactly.
about access it, but, you know, I think having stories like this come out, it's when you're speaking with emotion, you're speaking with personal experience, and this is what catches people's attention. You know, it's really great when people come out and go, okay, do this and you'll get this, do that and do
Yeah.
that, and health professionals, you know, that's a lot of our job, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it always has to have a degree of emotion and human experience, because that's what's relatable to people. So it's this missing piece of the puzzle in that journey that you know, that personal touch provides, which I think is so important. And you know how much I value it, which is why I'm like, let's
Absolutely.
have,
That's why, so this campaign is called This is Diabetes, because it's actually going through 5 different people, myself included. So there's one
yeah,
girl who's 5 years old and how her parents deal with it. Another
yeah,
lady who's gestational. I
yeah,
can't remember the others, but they were just saying that, you know, you can't, it's a non-communicable disease, which is what I also talked about when I went to Livingston a couple of years ago with Dr. Lungwe, because you can't look at someone and say you have diabetes. Like, people come to me like, you don't look like you have diabetes. I'm like, what is that supposed to look like?
but
You know? So we're trying to break those taboos and stigmas around it, because they're mixing type 2 and type 1 together. You know, I've been to some of the doctors and they are treating me as if I'm a type 2. And I'm like, I think you need to go back and check your books. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's a lot of just misinformation coming out there. So this campaign is running for the next 6 weeks. So on the Diabetes UK website, on their Instagram, it was on TV, live UK TV this morning. I was on a train to a photo shoot, so I missed it. So my parents were videoing it for me.
what?
And then they're highlighting individual stories. So you guys will actually hear my individual story of diabetes. Right now, the video is quite like a lot of stories snippeted together, but you'll get my individual write-up and to read, and the video too.
So exciting. We're so proud of you. You've done
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. I want to just put Zambia on the map, saying, look, all of us here. Because honestly, one thing I've said to a lot of people is living in Zambia helped with my diabetes so much, because everything is organic. The weather is great. There's a lifestyle that is less stressful than the West. And
Yeah.
I've noticed the stress of the West affecting my sugars a lot, because I'm so sensitive. I mean,
So
like just sitting with my dog in the garden
yeah.
relaxes me, and it's a background relaxation. Like all your cortisol levels, everything just drops here. I don't have those things that I'm used to, you know,
Yeah.
so the sugars tend to be a little bit higher. So I've had to realize that, okay, you know what, all my insulin levels have to go a little bit higher as well. But again, it's being aware of your own self and what your triggers are.
Yeah. I could not agree with that statement more, because last year when I was pregnant and I went to have my
Yeah.
son in Australia,
Yeah.
I had no idea how much I missed my garden. And when I got back
I
home,
know.
you're right, the back that exists living here that you actually realize you're taking for granted until it gets taken away from you. And so I
100%.
resonate with that so much. Like
100%.
I'm relaxed, I'm calm, I'm in control. Whereas in the world, it's a very like you know, you're just chasing your tail all the time.
All
So
the time.
yeah, I
All the time. I
even
can't
understand.
wait until Zambia's off the red list so I can come home and hug my doggy.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't wait to have you back too. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you
think
for
if there's any
having
other,
me. I
yeah,
don't know.
people
Is there any
can.
other questions? I just want to say
Oh
thank
wait,
you to
there's one.
everyone who's listened in and sharing. If you want to hear more of the stories, everything's online, but I'm happy that they've all listened to my sharing. It's quite emotional for me. I've been up and down all day because it's bittersweet, because I'm proud of the achievement
Yeah.
of what what I have done, but it's also sad because of the life I've had to live in order to get to this. But
Sure.
it's what I couldn't find in the world. I'm trying to be that person for the next generation.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that you will. There's one more question we missed. Can one be insulin resistant and not diabetic? So, yes, you can have insulin resistance in your body to a certain degree. It just depends how severe it is. So, in type 1 diabetes, it's not necessarily insulin resistance that's an issue, but it's the production of insulin. So, the cells that produce insulin are not producing enough or any at all, depending on the person. So I hope that clears it up. Resistance is kind of like when you tell someone to close the door and they just don't want to listen to you. So they're not doing their job properly. And that's typically what we see in type 2 diabetes. So it can become, you can have it, but not be diagnosed with diabetes, but it is probably a precursor to type 2. So hopefully that answers your, thank you so much. So much love from
There's
everyone.
so much
Thanks,
love.
Kaj.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Lily.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, you have a lovely
Great.
rest of your day.
Thank
And we
you.
look forward to the other campaign posts and hearing your story. And then
Sure.
everyone can look out for the event next month.
Definitely. Excited.com. Have a great afternoon. Love you. Bye.
Bye bye.